Okay, I'm now going to work the problems on the study guide for you. And if you have already completed the test or the study guide, you should have had it checked by either myself or by Mr. Sells, and you should know which ones you missed. Just use the video to check the ones that you missed and make corrections that you need to. If you've not done the study guide yet, what I want you to do is actually pause the video once each problem shows up on the screen, try to work it yourself, and then use the video to check it. Do not just copy the work off the video. Here we go. Number 1, what is the slope of the ramp? Remember that the slope is another word for rate of change. Remember that rate of change is your change in your y values over your change in your x values. Your y-axis, if this were on a graph, the y-axis is the one that goes up and down. The x-axis is the one that goes from left to right. So when we're talking about our change in y, we're talking about the up and down change. And when we're doing the change in x, we're talking about left to right. So, and this is actually a typo, whoops. So our up and down change here for the ramp is a 5. Our left to right change is a 15. 5 over 15 simplifies to 1 over 3 if I divide them both by 5. And this is slanting upwards. You always go from left to right, just like words on a page. So from left to right, it's going upwards. So it's going to be a positive 1/3, which means that your answer should be C for number 1. Number 2, which equation matches the graph? Every one of these equations is in the format of slope-intercept form. Remember, that means y equals the slope of your line times x plus your y-intercept. Remember, slope is also known as rate of change. Y-intercept means where your graph hits the y-axis. So let's see which one of these works. So the y-intercept is really easy to see right here because the graph hits it at a -2. So because the y-intercept is a -2, we're going to narrow it down. We can take this one out because this one says the y-intercept is 1/2, which isn't right. So now we need to figure out the slope, aka rate of change, to figure out which of these other equations it is. So I'm going to pick my 2 points, connect my dots. I had to go down 1 and over 2 because this is slanting downwards. Remember, I do my change in my y over my change in my x. So that's going to be a -1/2 slope, which means that my answer is going to be D. Number 3, which equation matches the table? I'm going to find my rate of change to help me. So from -4 to -9, that's a -5. -5. So these are all going down by -5 every time. And it's going up by a +1 every time. So that means my rate of change, remember, rate of change is my change in my y values, so -5, over my change in my x values. -5 over 1 simplifies to a -5. So I'm going to pick this one right here because the rate of change is that number in front of the x. I'm going to just double check, though, and make sure I did it right. If this is, in fact, the right answer, I should be able to pick one of the points off of my graph, so in this case 1, 4, put it into that equation and make sure that it works out. So instead of doing -5 times x, I'm going to do -5 times 1. -5 times 1 is -5. -5 plus 1 is -4, which is what I got for my y value. So therefore, I know for sure that I did it right. Short answer. I love my dog. I like to feed him lots of cookies. Yes, I get by the end of this, you're going to end up having a pretty ridiculously high number, and that's okay. Sometimes you run into weird questions like that. Okay, so it says create a table to show the number of cookies I gave him for the first 10 days. So I'm going to do my number of days here, number of cookies here. So day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it tells me in the question that on day 1, I gave my dog 1 cookie. I gave him 3 cookies the second day. I gave him 9 cookies the third day. And then it says, and I continued to triple the previous day for 30 days. So what that means is every single time I add a day, I take the number of cookies the dog got before, and I multiply it by 3. So 9 times 3 means that on the 4th day, he got 27. 27 times 3 means that the next day he got 81. Yes, I know how ridiculous it sounds to give your dog 81 cookies, but I promise this is right. Okay, 81 times 3 is going to give me 243. Then multiply that times 3. That is going to be 243 times 3 is 729. So multiply that by 3 on day 8, that darn dog is getting 2,187. Again, I know how ridiculous this sounds. By the next day, he gets 6,561. And then finally on day 10, gets 19,683. So part B says, is this relationship linear? Remember, linear means that if you were to graph it, would it form a straight line? And you actually don't even need to graph these to see whether or not they would form a straight line, because you can also determine whether or not something is linear by looking at its rate of change. If it has a constant rate of change, that means the same thing all the way down, then it will be linear. Well, I can tell right away. From 1 to 3, it goes up by 2, but then from 3 to 9, it goes up by 6. And both of these days always go up by 1. So change in y over change in x. So 2 over 1 simplifies to a 2. 6 over 1 simplifies to a 6. So that is not a constant rate of change. So is this relationship linear? Not linear, because no constant rate of change. Number 4, which of the following has infinitely many solutions? Remember, infinitely many is something like this, where you have the same thing on both sides of the equal sign, because that means that you could literally put any number on the planet in for x, and it would bounce out on both sides. Okay, this one with the squared is something that we actually don't even know how to do yet. Now, B sure does look an awful lot like it's got the same thing on both sides, but it's a little bit different, because here the minus 3 is negative, and over here the 4x is negative. So this one does not have infinitely many solutions. I'm going to look at option C. So because I can't do x plus 3, I've got to use distributive property. That 4 sitting next to the parentheses means that I need to multiply. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12. 4x plus 12 on the other side. Yay, I found it. The answer is C. Well, let me explain to you really fast why it's not D, just to make sure. Okay, I still need to do distributive property on that side. So 4 times x would be 4x. 4 times 3 would be 12. And that doesn't give me the same thing on both sides. This side has 4x plus 12. This side has 4x plus 3. So when you have 4 x's and you add 12, that's always going to be bigger than 4 x's with 3 added. So D would actually not be infinite solutions. That one would be no solution, in case you run into something like that, because there's no number that you can put in for x. So that 4 x's plus 12 gives you the same thing as 4 x's plus 3. Number 5, which number can be put in for w so that the ordered pairs will represent a function? Remember what a function is. Let's say I've got this function, for example. So I'm going to put in my input, also known as my x. Something's going to come out for my output, also known as my y. So say I put a 3 in for x. Well, 2 times 3 would be 6 for my output. Every time I put a 3 in, I better get a 6 out. If I don't, that means it's not a function. That means it's not functioning correctly. So for it to be a function, if you have the same input, you've got to have the same output. So if we put in, for example, option A for W, then we would have 2 of the same input, but they would have different outputs, because this one would have a 4 and that one would have a 1. So that can't be the right answer. So what if I put in a 6? Of course, I've got the same input again without the same output, so that can't be it. But if I put in a 7, same problem. Got the same input, but with different outputs. The only one that works is if I put in option D, which is 8. Because if I put in 8 for W, all of my inputs are different, which means that I don't have to look to see if they have the same output. So therefore, I have found my number that makes it a function. If all your inputs are different, you automatically assume it's a function. Number 9, Kendra and Rihanna love to read. They had a competition. Okay, so Kendra started off with 3 books before they even started the contest and then read 2 books each month, while Rihanna had already read 7 books and read 1 more each month. So let's look at option A. Each girl read 7 books on the second month. Well, let's look at the second month. So did the girls read 7 books? Now, and one thing I want to point out to you guys too is that this graph represents how much they've read total. Because look at this for a second. At month 0, it shows their initial amount, what they started with. Okay, Kendra is right here with the 3 that she started with. And then every month she reads 2 more. So then it goes up to 5 total, 7 total, 8 total. Wait, I just messed up. Whoops, that should be a 9, sorry. Then 11, and so on, and so on. So this graph doesn't represent, so this little number right here, the 7, doesn't represent how many she read on the second month. It represents how many she had read total. And same thing for Rihanna. These little triangles don't represent how much she read every month. They represent her total amount. So each girl read 7 books on the second month. Well, on month 2, no, because every single month Kendra reads 3, and then every single month Rihanna reads 1. So there's never a month where the girls read 7 books. Now they read 7 total, but they didn't actually read 7 books on the second month. The girls read 5 books altogether before the first month. So before the first month started, Kendra had read 3, Rihanna had already read 7. 7 plus 3 is not 5, so that can't be it either. Each girl read 11 books on the 4th month, going back to what I said a minute ago. So on the 4th month, both of the girls have a spot here at 11. But this doesn't represent the fact that they read 11 books on the 4th month. It represents that they've read a total number of books of 11 by the 4th month. They didn't read 11 books on that 4th month. That's just how many total they had. So it's got to be D. The girls read 11 books altogether on the 4th month. What that word altogether means is that their total number of books so far was 11. So altogether means total. So both of the girls had read a total of 11 books by the 4th month. So the answer should be D. Number 7, which one represents a nonlinear function? Remember that linear means a straight line. So nonlinear means that it would not make a straight line. Now this guy right here is in slope-intercept form. Anytime you see y equals a number in front of your x plus another number hanging out, that's your slope, and then your y-intercept. That always makes a straight line. Because what I would do is I would go down to the negative 11 on my graph, which actually it's not showing right now. I go down here to the negative 11, and then my rate of change says I'm going up 3 and over 2. So then that's how I would make my points. I go up 3 and over 2, up 3 and over 2. So clearly, oh, oops, I didn't go over 2. Sorry about that. So clearly, that's linear. And we're looking for a nonlinear. So that one's not it. Okay, now, these two, and we're going to do process of elimination right now because there's some background knowledge that we haven't quite covered yet. Right here, this says 2y plus a fraction times x plus 11. This also says 3y equals a fraction times x plus 11. Okay, those are exactly the same thing, just with different numbers. And we're looking for only one nonlinear function. So since they're really exactly the same thing, neither one of those can be the right answer. They both have to be linear. And you guys are going to find out soon, just like here when you have just a plain y and an x with no exponent or squared or anything. Here, if you have just a y and an x, it's going to be linear because you can actually change this equation around in order to make it in slope-intercept form. The only one that's kind of a weird one right here is this one right here. This exponent right there means that it will not be linear, so the answer should be D. Number 8, here's the one. This time we're looking for a linear function. You guys better pick this one right here. You better pick D because it's already in slope-intercept form. Y equals the slope times x plus 2. So I would go up 2 for my y-intercept, and then for my rate of change, I would go up 1 and over 2. Up 1 and over 2. So the answer is D for a linear function. Number 9, which equation matches the table that shows the relationship between the number of t-shirts and the cost? I'm going to do the rate of change. Okay, technically t-shirts is X and cost is Y, even though they don't say X and Y. So I'm going to find my rate of change, which we better know by now is your change in your Y's over your change in your X's. So this is going up by 4 every time. These guys are going up by 1 every time. So 4 over 1 simplifies to a 4. So I'm going to pick either B or I'm going to pick D, because this number in front of my X, that 4, gives me my rate of change. So I know that one of those two is going to work because the rate of change for this table is a 4. So now to narrow it down, I'm going to take option B, and I'm going to take a point from the chart, put it in here, and see if it works. So instead of 4 times t, I'm going to do 4 times 3 and get 12. 12 plus 4, if this works, should give me 14, because that's what my cost is right there. But 12 plus 4 is not 14. So B can't be right. So let's try option D. Cost equals 4t plus 2. So instead of 4 times t, it's going to be 4 times 3, which is 12. 12 plus 2 is, in fact, that 14 I was looking for. So I know that option D is the correct one. Number 10, guys, this question, and I hope I explained this to everybody in class, is a little bit mistyped. It says that he ran at 30 minutes at a constant speed before cooling down, where he slowed down for 5 minutes and then walked the rest of the way. This slow down for 5 minutes and walked the rest of the way is really intended to be the same one thing. So I'm really looking for something that only has 2 segments. This flat right here does not mean that he's standing still. It means that his speed is constant. Okay, this right here means his speed is going up, which wasn't happening. He's going at a constant speed. So this is the only one that starts out going as a constant speed and then slowing down. So the answer has to be C. Number 11, which one is linear? You could graph them on a coordinate grid and see which ones line up. Or another option is to find your rate of change. And remember, on a table, if the rate of change is constant, then you know that they would line up to be a linear pattern. So from 3 to 2 is a -1. From 2 to 3 is a +1. From 3 to 4 is a +1. And these are all going up by 1 every time. Well, change in y over change in x, -1 over 1 is not the same thing as +1 over 1. So the rate of change isn't constant, so it can't be A. It's going up by 2, 4, and then 8. And this is going up by 2 every time. 2 over 2 is not the same thing as 4 over 2. So that one's not it. Each of these is going up by 5 every time. That's going up by 2, and then 1, and then 2. 5 over 2 is not the same rate of change as 5 over 1. So that's not a constant rate of change, which means it's not linear either. Last one. This is going down by 4 every time. This is going up by 2. So -4 over 2 simplifies to a -2, which means, and it does it for all of them, -4 over 2, -4 over 2, -4 over 2. So D has a constant rate of change, so my answer should be D. Number 12, which ordered pair is the solution to the system of equations graphed below? What we mean by a solution is a point that falls on both of the lines. A system of equations just means that you have more than one equation going on there. So the solution to it is going to be a point that falls on both places on the line. The only place that falls both ways is this one right here. We go over 1 and up 2 where they cross. So your answer has to be C. Again, a system of equations is when you have more than one equation. So I've got two equations right here, and it's asking me what is true about both of these equations. So I'm going to start off by graphing them. They are in slope-intercept form, which means that that's my slope and that's my y-intercept. The y-intercept of 2 means it's going to cross right there on the 2. The slope of -7. Now, slope and remember rate of change mean the same thing. Now, the slope doesn't have two numbers for your x and y change and your left and right change. So what you're going to do is take that -7 and put a 1 under it so that now you have your change in y over your change in x, because 7 over 1 is the same thing as 7. So because this is going negative, I'm going to go down 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 1. I'm going to try my darndest to draw a fairly straight line here. Normally I would graph more points than that, but this is good enough for now. This other one has a y-intercept at 8, but it has the same slope. So I'll go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 1. Connect my dots with a line. So let's figure out which one is true. So first of all, the lines intersect at 2, 8. Intersecting means when they cross, just like right here in the previous example. Okay, these aren't going to cross because they're at equal distance apart from each other. They've got the same slope. So these guys are actually never going to cross each other. I'll extend this line out a little bit to prove it. So see, they're never actually going to touch. So both of these options that say intersect can't be right. The equations represent the same line. Well, no, clearly we've got two different lines. Last but not least, the equations represent parallel lines. Remember from geometry, parallel means they're an equal distance apart so that they're never going to touch, and that's what these are right here. And actually, anytime that you have two slopes that are exactly the same, they're going to be lines that are parallel to each other. That means that they're the same distance apart, so they're never going to cross. Number 14, Justin bought 7 shirts. Fancy shirts cost 28, plain shirts cost 10. How many of each did he buy? Since this is multiple choice, I'm going to eliminate my possibilities. So if he bought 7 shirts, A can't be right, because 8 fancy plus 3 plain doesn't add up to 7. So that's not going to work. So I'm going to look at option B. So 2 fancy plus 5 plain. Well, fancy, 2 times 28 would be 56, plus 5 plain. They cost 10, so 5 times 10 would be 50. So $56 on fancy shirts plus 50 on plain is $106, not the total of 160 that we need it to be. So option B is not right. 5 fancy plus 2 plain. So let's see, instead of 5 times F, I'll do 5 times 28 because that's how much they cost. So if you bought 5 fancy shirts, 5 times 28 is 140. Plus 2 times 10, because that's how much a plain shirt costs, would be 20. Well, 140 plus 20 is in fact 160, which is the total that we needed. So the answer should be C. Last but not least is the multiple choice, which graph matches the table. So I'm going to look first to see graphs that have 2, 1 in it. So I'm going to go over 2 and up 1. Okay, so that point is not on the line, so that one can't be it. I'm going to go over 2 and up 1. Again, that point does not fall on that graph. Here I'm going to go over 2 and up 1. Okay, so that one was on there. So now over 4 and up 2. Yep, that one's on there. Over 6 and up 3. Over 8 and up 4. So ding, ding, ding. That's the one that matches the table. Okay, for your ERQ, I know it's worded a little bit confusingly, so let's walk through this together. Jefferson wants to join a gym, and she's trying to figure out which gym to go to. The Louisville Athletic Club charges $10 per visit, so that means every time you go, you pay $10. LA Fitness, though, and this is what most gyms do, they charge you $40, I assume, per month, plus $2 every time you visit. So you don't pay $42 every time you go. You pay $40 just to get in the door. Then after that, you pay $2 every visit. So let's look back at the LAC for a second. It says make a table for the first 10 visits. So at the LAC, since they only charge $10 a visit, well, if you never go, it's going to cost you $0. But if you go once, it'll cost you 10, twice 20, 3, 30, 4, 40. I think you see where I'm going with this. Now, LA Fitness is different because they charge you $40 whether you show up or not. So no visits is going to cost you $40. Then it costs you $2 every visit after that. So your first visit is going to be a total of 42. Then after 2 visits, it'll be 44, 46, 48, going up by 2 every time. Now we need to graph each plan. So you're going to need actually you're going to have 2 lines that actually show up on this graph. Okay, so it says X represents your number of visits. So this is my X axis. Y represents my cost. So this is my Y axis. Okay, so I'm going to do the LAC first, and I'm going to do it in black. So the LAC charges $10 for every visit. So no visits would be no dollars. 1 visit would be 10, 2, 20, 3, 30. I think you see where I'm going with this. If it doesn't make a straight line, because you do have a constant rate of change, because every single visit, it changes by $10. So it should be linear. Now I'm going to, so this is the LAC. Now I'm going to do the LA Fitness place. Okay, so 0 visits actually cost you $40. Because remember, they charge you $40 whether you show up or not. After that, it's only $2 more. So 1 visit would be like $2 more. 2 visits would be another couple dollars. 3 visits, 4. 5 visits would be 50. And because this actually ends up being the same point, I'm going to do this right here because 50 actually shows up along the LAC and the LA Fitness one. So then I'm going to keep graphing. So 6, all my little points on my graph. Oh, oops. Let's see. 7 was 54. 7 should be a little bit here. And 56, 58. I think I got it. Oops, I got it off. Oh gosh, I skipped a bunch, didn't I? Whoopsie. Let's try this again. All right. So now I've graphed it. C says represent each gym membership with a rule. In other words, write an equation. So C, the total cost, they told us to make our Y, and visits, they told us to make our X. So C is going to be Y for total cost. Visits is going to be X. So for the LAC, since they charge $10 a visit, your total cost, Y, is going to be equal to $10 times your number of visits. The LA Fitness Factory, your total cost, Y, is going to be $40 because that's what you have to start off owing, plus $2 times every visit. I saw some people in class doing 40x plus 2. Guys, this isn't right because you're saying it's going to be $40 for every visit instead of $2 for every visit like you would in the correct one. Last but not least, it says, in how many months, and this should say visits, would Jefferson have to go to the gym for both memberships to cost the same amount? So you can look 2 different ways. You can look on the graph and see that at month 5, they both cost $50. Or you can look on your table and see that at month 5, they both cost $50. So for how many months? You could say 5 visits because table and the graph show a cost of $50 after 5 visits for both gyms.